Hello. I'm going to talk today about narrative, which is the form that tells a story to explain an idea. This can be useful because we as humans seem to experience our lives as stories, so a narrative can often help a reader understand an idea more easily and effectively. For this reason, I'd like to talk a little bit about the art of creating a narrative. Unfortunately, I don't tell stories very well because I usually forget to state a story's meaning. I just assume that the events I'm describing lead obviously to the point that I want to make. However, they don't. No matter how close I am to an audience or a reader, that person will never make the same connections that I make between ideas. Fortunately, I can still tell my reader directly what I want the story to mean, and then use the events of my story as evidence for that meaning. By the way, I'm realizing as I'm saying this that I really haven't explained what I mean when I say story. So, for the purposes of this lecture, let's think of a story as a series of events described to create a particular meaning. And what I mean by that is a story it is not just a series of events, but that those events are described by someone to make a point, to create a meaning. So let's look at some ways that we can actually do that we can actually use a story to create a meaning. I believe that the best way to help my reader understand my story's meaning is by choosing a method of organization. In other words, I can describe the events in my narrative in an order that seems to lead to my idea most directly. As always, I want to give my reader the easiest job possible, and by giving the events of my story a pattern or an order, I can help my reader process those events more easily. Thus, I can spend more time and effort giving the reader my actual meaning. So, to do this, let's take a look at some of these methods of organization that you can use when you create a narrative. The most natural seeming, and probably the most popular of these methods, seems to be a chronological order, which is an order dictated by time. In other words, a story using chronological order describes its events in the order they happen in. Most stories seem to use this kind of order because it's the way we experience our lives, with one event preceding the next, one event following the one before it. However, that chronological order is not our only choice. If we want to, we can also choose a thematic order that describes events based on their importance to the story's idea. A story told using this method could start with the least apparently meaningful event and build to the most important event, so as to direct the reader's attention to the story's meaning. Or it could begin by stating the story's meaning and the most important part of that story, the most important event, and could go the other way towards the least apparently meaningful. Either way, this method can help bring a reader's attention to the meaning of a story by focusing a reader's attention on the importance of those events. I hope that what I've said here will help you consider how you want to organize the information you use when you create a narrative. As you keep writing, you might notice how well this idea of narrative fits into the TETS pattern of a body paragraph, with the first sentence of the paragraph, the topic sentence, expressing the story's meaning, the points of evidence fitting the events in the narrative, and a conclusion, reminding the reader of the point you wanted to make with that story. In fact, you might consider how all the ideas that you're examining in this course might work together. In any event, and as always, thank you for your time and attention.